This webinar is about person-centered planning and the use of POM interviews, which are personal outcome measure interviews. I will be sharing the experiences of one large agency which supports people with disabilities in using the Council of Quality and Leadership POM interview process as a key part of the person-centered planning process. This agency is Lexington Center, which is located in upstate New York. Lexington has been serving people with disabilities for over 60 years, and we currently provide supports for over 1,000 people. Lexington was accredited in 2013. In Virginia, you are fortunate to have I Am Determined, which focuses on self-determination and youth with disabilities taking control of their lives. Person-centered planning and the use of personal outcome measures is all about people with disabilities taking control of their lives and those who support them learning what they truly feel and helping them to achieve their goals. So who are we? There will be two voices throughout this webinar, and my name is Nancy Desando. I'm the Director of Innovations and Community Supports at Lexington, a chapter of the ARC in New York State. Joining me today is Shaloni Winston, the Executive Director of Lexington and founder of Transitions. Between us, we bring over 60 years of experience in supporting people with disabilities, including students on the spectrum. While we have always supported young adults in transitioning from high school to college, careers, and independent living, we recently launched a program called Transitions that specializes in this area in a big way. We will first review why person-centered planning is important for people with disabilities and gain an understanding of CQL and the POM interview process for young adults with ASD or other learning differences. You will learn the 21 personal outcome measures and why they are key. Finally, we will share some stories of individuals and their personal outcome interviews and how this process impacted their lives. We will share examples and stories from our program to support young adults on the spectrum and those with other learning differences. Person-centered planning promotes the belief that people with disabilities, intellectual and developmental disabilities, are people first. They have valuable gifts and contributions to bring to relationships with family and friends and the community as a whole. Person-centered planning views the entire person, not just the portion of the person that has identified needs. In simple terms, person-centered planning is an approach to forming life plans that are centered on the individual for whom they are built. The ARC's self-determination scale is a student self-report measure of self-determination. It helps show strengths and areas of support needed and looks at areas like autonomy, self-regulation, empowerment, and self-realization. The personal outcome measures interview helps determine what matters most to the participants and where they would like support, as well as help in goal setting. The Council on Quality and Leadership is an accreditation board which supports the use of POMs as a key part of person-centered supports. Person-centered planning is a discovery process that's used to search out what is truly important to and about a person and what capacities and skills that person possesses. It is values-based with the knowledge that each and every individual has unique capacities and skills. It focuses on positive vision for the future of the person based on his or her strengths, preferences, and capacities for acquiring new skills, abilities, and personality. It focuses on what a person can do versus what a person cannot do. A trained facilitator helps gather relevant information about a person. It may take several discussions to discover a fuller picture of that person. The individual is always at the center of the person-centered planning process. They are as involved in the planning process as they desire or can be. The process works best when it includes other people, such as family members or friends, who know the person well and believe in their vision. The process explores what the person considers to be most important in their current life, which may be influenced by their history and their plans for their personal future. This discovery process involves active listening, focusing on capacities, skill identification, and acquisition. The person-centered process helps to identify desired personal outcomes based on the individual's life goals, interests, strengths, abilities, desires, and preferences. The process helps to determine the supports and the services that the individual needs to work toward achieving these outcomes, and accordingly, to develop a plan that directs the provision of these supports. These strategies can include both natural and community supports, as well as staffing support and services. The person-centered plan is a tool that helps people figure out what they want and need, and seeks to identify the kind of supports necessary to achieve those outcomes. Through an intentional process to discover what is truly important to someone and to really listen to their goals, their dreams, and their hopes, the person-centered plan, if done well, can help that person to become all that he or she can be.
So a little bit about CQL. Who is CQL? CQL is the Council on Quality and Leadership. It's an international not-for-profit organization dedicated to the definition, promotion, measurement, and improvement of personal and community quality of life for people with disabilities. It also includes people with mental illness and older adults. The vision of CQL is a world of dignity, opportunity, and community for all people. CQL has demonstrated international leadership for over 40 years. It works in partnership with public and private organizations and provides accreditation according to recognized standards for agencies. CQL's personal outcome measure interviews are one of the ways our program to support young adults with disabilities uses person-centered planning to provide person-centered supports that are truly focused on that person. Personal outcome measures are key to CQL. They were introduced by CQL in 1993. CQL held individual and focused group meetings with people representing diverse backgrounds and challenges in their lives, including people with disabilities, mental illness, brain injury, and physical challenges. Choice and self-determination are the foundation for personal quality of life. CQL has maintained an international personal outcome database and has demonstrated the validity and reliability of personal outcome measure interviews and information gathering methodology. The personal outcome measures were formatted into 3 areas. Myself, which represents who I am as a result of my unique heredity, life experiences, and decisions. My world, where I work, live, socialize, belong, or connect. My dreams, how I want my life, that's myself and my world to be. These 3 areas lead to my focus, what is most important to me now. The personal outcome measures have a 3-part application. In our program to support young adults with ASD and other learning differences, we focus on learning, facilitating, and measuring. Learning. Staff, teams, and organizations use the outcomes to learn about people, discovering what and how much an outcome means to the person. The choice of priority is personal, and people's experiences, preferences, challenges, and personalities guide the learning process. Facilitating. Once we have learned a person's definition of the outcomes, resources are organized to provide the services and supports to facilitate outcome achievement. Finally, measuring. After aligning supports to facilitate personal outcomes, it's important to determine if outcomes are achieved. Through the CQL series of questions, a decision can be made about whether outcomes are present or not present. Personal outcome measure interviews include an outcome interview where a trained interviewer talks with the young adult, if at all possible, to assess the personal quality of life. In the event that the person isn't able to communicate in any way, the interviewer would talk with the person who knows them best. Then the interviewer conducts a support interview where they talk with family, friends, or staff who provide services to the person. Interviewers are trained by CQL-approved reliable interviewers, those who have been both trained and validated by CQL. That said, parents can informally use the interview process to determine what matters to your son or daughter. The interview questions are available for reference on CQL's website and can give a good idea of how to assess what a young adult feels confident in, what they value, and what they would like to work on. Once the outcome and support interviews are completed, which could take more than one session each, the trained interviewer makes decisions of whether or not the outcome and the support are present or not present in the person's life. The results of these decisions provide a score that reflects quality of life and quality of services. We use this information to facilitate resources to provide supports for the person to achieve their priority of outcomes. The agency then can compare the results from year to year to determine whether we have improved services and hence the quality of life for people. What they tell us is the key to the person-centered plan. CQL has identified 21 personal outcomes, which have been proven to be the most important elements of a high-quality life. They have conducted, through many focus groups, international surveys, advisory group input, and listening sessions with focus group, and field tested these personal outcome measures across the United States and Canada. What it really means is that they believe that these 21 personal outcomes are what people find, whether they have a disability or not, to be the most important in their lives, to make their lives happy. They do say that not everybody, most people don't have all 21 personal outcomes. Usually to be considered, if you're happy, usually you may have 15 or 16 outcomes in your life.
Myself is the first area, and that includes the foundation outcomes that promote individuality and allow people to capture tomorrow's possibilities. Myself describes the personal, physical, and emotional part of the personal outcome measures, the presence of which enables people to explore tomorrow's possibilities and choices. The first of the three areas in myself includes 9 measures that are what the person's well-being is all about, and we will be reviewing each one in the following slides. The first measure is that people are connected to natural support networks. A key component is that a connection to a network of other people who provide personal support is recognized as important. Most often, the networks are family and very close friends, and relationships usually last their entire lives. Organizations assist people to maintain existing, but also to nurture emerging natural support networks. The person chooses the extent and frequency of contact in conjunction with the people in the support network. Now, each outcome has a list of suggested questions that the interviewers ask the person and the support person. And when they're doing this interview, the questions are not asked one after another in a rote way, but they're worked into the conversation so the interviewers already know the questions they need to get as part of that dialogue. They help the interviewer determine if that outcome is present for that person. So, suggested questions for the person being interviewed about natural supports includes the following. Who are the people in your life that you can count on? Who do you want to talk to or be with during the tough times? Who do you want to share successes with? Have you lost contact with your family? And is the contact that you do have enough for you? What type or frequency of contact would you really prefer? What do you think could be done to change that situation? And where do you get emotional strength? If the interviewer can't get these questions answered directly from the person, he could ask someone who knows the person best questions such as, do you know who is part of the person's natural support network? Do you know if the person is satisfied and happy with the amount of contact they have with these people? What assistance is provided to maintain that person's contact with their family and others who provide emotional support? And then in this same area, the interview will interview family, friends, or staff who support the person to find out if that support is present for the person to achieve this outcome. The interviewer asks questions from the suggested list, including things like, how do you learn about the person's support network? What do you do to support contact with their family? If there isn't contact with the family, what do you do to assist them to reestablish contact if desired? If the contact is with their parents only, what do you do to expand that network to extended family? What do you do if the extent and frequency of contact isn't satisfactory to the person? Are there barriers that prevent the person from remaining connected to people in the support network? How do you assist that person to overcome those barriers? And what organizational practices, values, and activities support this outcome for the person? The next outcome is people have intimate relationships, and people choose their intimate relationships, their type, and their scope. Relationships with family and close personal friends may meet some people's needs for intimacy, and efforts are made to understand each person's individualized intimacy needs. The third one is people are safe. Feeling safe and free from danger concerns all of us. A young adult with ASD may not recognize dangers, and parents are worried about this. We want to assure people are safe where they live, where they go to school, where they work, or where they have activities. Overprotection, on the other hand, prevents learning. Young adults must be assisted in making less risky decisions before facing those with higher risks. As with the example of natural supports, each of these measures has specific questions for the person and the support person to help the interviewer determine if the outcome is present. The key issue for best possible health is that healthcare interventions are personalized and effective for that person and are very different person to person. It's individually defined for each person, given his or her unique characteristics. Supports are provided to help the person manage his or her own situation, ensuring that they have information and education. Preventive health care is addressed, and the person is informed and makes decisions about health care whenever possible. Assistive devices are available and are in good repair. In our program to support young adults with disabilities, the key to health care being person-centered is that the person is interviewed to see if they feel healthy, what they do to stay healthy, and do they see healthcare professionals, have preventive care, or take medications? And we discuss, is that person involved in all of those decisions, or to the extent that they can be? Do they make their own appointments? Do they prepare for their doctor's appointments and know how to talk directly with that doctor so that the doctor's not talking around them to the person who brought them? We want them to be in the driver's seat as much as they possibly can be. People exercise rights. Questions to ask regarding the young adult's knowledge of rights includes things like, what do you know about your rights as a citizen? May not be something they've ever been asked before. Do you have access to that information about your rights as a person, as somebody receiving services, and as a citizen? What rights seem to be the most important to you? Are you able to exercise your rights without difficulty? What information or support do you need to help you in exercising your rights? Who can you talk to about your questions or concerns regarding rights? The next one is people are treated fairly. Questions about this outcome include things like, have there been times when you were treated unfairly, your rights were violated, and who can you talk to about those concerns about your rights? People are free from abuse and neglect. People are not subjected to abuse, neglect, mistreatment, or exploitation. No one threatens or intimidates them to comply. A person sometimes considers actions or circumstances harmful, even if they really aren't neglectful or abusive, but we need to provide support to that person to cope with their feelings, whatever they may be. People experience continuity and security. Change, of course, is a fact of life. We all go through change. The amount and type of change that we experience can contribute to happiness or discontent. Understanding how each person defines and reacts to change is very important to providing outcome-based supports. People with a disability may need to depend on others to some extent for supports. Changes in staff, changes in the environment or the routine, even schedules can be very disruptive to someone and really throw them off kilter. People decide when to share their personal information. Information is not made public or shared with others without their direct consent. This sometimes takes education for the young adult on the spectrum. Sometimes they may share information too quickly or too broadly with others. So learning about privacy and what is okay to share is something that staff can help support them with.
The next area of focus is My World. My World relates to outcomes resulting from connectedness and life in the community. This includes meeting and interacting with friends, families, neighbors, coworkers, peers, and others. People gain a sense of belonging and connection. People choose where and how they live, they work, they spend time, and what they do. This allows opportunities as people discover and react to all the interactions with others, places, and choices that are open to them. The area of My World includes 7 outcomes that relates to connectedness and life in the community. As before, the interviewer asks questions related to each outcome to determine if the outcome is met for that person and whether they have support for that outcome. So for the first outcome of My World is people choose where and with whom they live. Questions that are asked to determine this for the young adult include: how did you choose where to live? What options did you have to choose from? How did you decide who would live with you? What do you like about your living situation? What would you like to be different? One key point here is that none of us have complete control about everything that we do. So when we ask the question that people choose where and with whom they live, it's within certain parameters, the options that are available to them. Were they involved in that decision making is the key point here. The same thing applies to where they work. You can't just say, I want to work at Google and go and work at Google. So it's within those certain parameters, were they involved in that decision making? Work provides an income source, opportunities to meet people, get a sense of accomplishment and self-esteem. Supports and technology make it feasible for many people to have a job. Planning needs to begin early, in high school if possible, and internship experiences can provide information about choices and aptitudes. Technology can enhance employment options. Questions pertaining to work include: what do you do for work or your career? Do you have a job? What options did you have? Can you do something different if you wanted to? Are you satisfied with the decision you or others made? Another outcome is people use their environments. People should have full access to their environment with training, adaptations, or modifications as needed. Ramps, grab bars, accessible kitchens and bathrooms, telephones for those with hearing impairments are just a few modifications that give people access and freedom. Small thing to think about: if you don't have a universally designed environment, somebody who uses a wheelchair may not be able to go into the kitchen and help themselves to something from the refrigerator. It could be as small as that. So it takes away their right to be able to use their environment. People live in integrated environments. Living in the community helps people become part of the world and prevents feeling isolated. Activity and participation increase with more choices and diversity. Integration provides exposure to and acceptance of a wide diversity of people. People with disabilities have the same rights to access environments as others. Opportunities for building social capital are increased. People interact with other members of the community. This outcome goes along with the previous one we discussed, so that if people are in an integrated environment, they will interact with other members of the community. Most people interact with a variety of others who do not receive services or who are not staff paid to be with them. We all have people in our lives that are not staff who are hired to support us. People with disabilities who receive services are not different from that. Social roles. We all play social roles. We could be, from the picture you can see, we can have many different roles. We could be a parent, we could be a friend, we could be a teacher, we could be a hairdresser. We have many different roles. So people with disabilities should have many different roles. Some of the questions we ask to determine that of young adults is, do you know what different groups, clubs, organizations, etc. to be involved in? What kinds of involvement and responsibilities do you have in your neighborhood or community? Do you do things like neighborhood watch? Do you participate in civic groups, social clubs? Do you volunteer? Do you go to church or synagogue or other place of worship where you may have a role? What kinds of things do you like to do with other people? Is there something you would like to be doing that you don't do now? Sometimes young adults with disabilities can find themselves isolated or segregated, yet participation in varied social roles is a big part of a fulfilling life. Talking about what groups or activities your son or daughter is involved in compared to others in the family can give an indicator to an area of growth that may lead to a fulfilling life. Andy, a young man with ASD that we support, he is a volunteer for the local fire department and loves talking with others about safety in their homes. He feels proud about performing this role and being able to teach others this important information. Another outcome is people choose services. Questions that help ascertain whether people choose services include: who decided what services you receive? And if it wasn't you, why? Are these the services you want, and are they meeting your needs and expectations? Again, it's important to note that it's not that people can just choose to do whatever they want to do. It's within the certain parameters, and the important part here is how involved were they in making the decision.
My dreams reflects what people want from the choices in their lives. They flow out of the discovery that takes place in my world, and my dreams reflects how I want my life, myself, and my world to be. This area includes 5 outcomes that represent what the person wants, their goals and their dreams. This is a key area of focus and what is most important to that young adult. The first area of my dreams is people choose personal goals. We've chosen our own goals, and our goals reflect what we want for the future. To learn about someone's goals, we talk with the person, and when appropriate, to others who know that person well. We don't prejudge, and we respect what we learn. Questions about goals can include things like, how do you want your life to be in the future? What's important to you to accomplish or learn? Who do you talk to about your future? What are your hopes and dreams for yourself? And what assistance do you need to make those things happen? We find that when we talk to people about their personal goals, they can be very different from what we thought they were. And you'll learn that in a couple of the stories that are to come. So it's very important to ask that question and not assume you really know. Courtney told the interviewer that she had a personal goal to be independent with transportation. She uses a wheelchair, and she wants to someday live on her own. You'll hear her story in a few minutes to see what she's working on to achieve those goals and how far she has progressed. They don't just choose their goals, but they realize their goals. They actually happen. Success is defined when we achieve what we've set out to do. Doesn't always happen, but we certainly want some measure of success in order to continue. Questions include, what have you done that you feel good about? What have you accomplished in the last year? Have you actually set out to do something and had it happen? If not, why not? What got in your way? What were the barriers that you faced And what can we do to help you overcome them? People participate in the life of the community. Shaloni talked about being immersed in the community and being integrated so that people intersect with many different people from all different walks of life. There's a rich array of activities and experiences where we can find and develop interests, things that we didn't have before, that we had never experienced. Opportunities to meet others and broaden experiences are important. Information about community resources we need to provide, and resources are available, and we need to help people to get there and find out what they need to do to get to those resources. We may support people in things like transportation or in something like learning how do you act in public. People have friends. We all want friends. They provide emotional support and enjoyment. For young adults with autism or other learning differences, it can be hard to make friends. It's not always easy. Casual contacts are important, but you truly want deep friendship. Friends are a significant source of comfort, support, companionship, and just fun. Young adults with ASD and other disabilities sometimes struggle with friendships, and they may lack some of the social skills to achieve them. But we can do things to help that. Agencies can teach classes in social skills, such as the Peers classes from UCLA, which is the Program for Education and Enrichment of Relational Skills. We've recently run some Peers classes, and we found they are extremely helpful in some of the young adults attaining those skills to do something simple like make friends and talk with other people comfortably. People are respected. Everyone wants to be respected, right? Respect is how we show our regard for each other and indicates that we believe somebody is valued. Our interactions with others don't draw undue attention to the person's disability or their differences, and the person's options and preferences are honored always. Capabilities are stressed, and the expectations for achievement are high. We don't set the bar too low. We want it to be achievable, but also to be high enough to stretch. Supports and services are non-intrusive. We might ask questions like, how do people treat you? How do people talk to you and about you? Do people call you by your preferred name? Or do they come up with a nickname that they like to use? How do you know if your opinions are valued and respected? And what do you think about the things that you do at home, school, and work? Are they interesting or are they kind of boring? Do people listen to your comments and concerns? We had an interview with one lady that we work with who revealed that she had been abused when she lived in a foster family many years ago. That family changed her name, and ever since then, when people call her by that name, she remembered very painful times. We didn't know this until that interview happened. She shared that a goal of hers was to legally change her name back to her birth name. She and her support staff went through all of the legal steps needed to change her name, and she now proudly uses her birth name for everything. In talking with her, would we have thought that that was her goal? No. She told us that was her goal, and it's huge. Think how huge that is when the name somebody calls you is one that brings bad memories. So people need to have a voice and to truly be respected. With information about myself, my world, and my dreams, we see where they intersect to form my focus. My focus is what is truly most important to me right now. There may be a lot of areas that someone wants to change or work on, but this helps them prioritize what to work on first and helps the people that are supporting them know where to focus as well. As Shaloni mentioned, not every outcome will be present for a person, for us as well. Maybe there's 5 things that somebody wants to work on, but you can't work on them all right away. So the focus zooms in on the things to prioritize and to work on first. This is Cody, one of the fun and interesting and charming young men that we work with. Cody's 20. He graduated high school in 2013. He has Asperger's, ADHD, pervasive developmental disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, and he suffered from PTSD. He lives in a supervised apartment within Lexington, and he's an artist. He loves origami, gardens, the outdoors, shooting skeet with his dad. He wants to live on his own someday. He buys a lot of junk food, and he isn't yet independent with meds. He sometimes has trouble with social interactions with others and making eye contact until he knows someone well. He struggles with staying focused, and staff need to help him with that. He can do household chores. Sometimes he needs reminders to complete them and to stay on task. In his personal outcome measure interview, he said that what matters most to him is being outdoors, enjoying family and friends, and he wants help from staff to continue his education, and he has a goal of getting a job in environmental conservation. He wants to someday have his own property in the country with a big garden. He knows he needs to work on independence skills in order to get there. Because he has shared what his goals are, there is buy-in for working with staff on the skills to attain that goal. They are supporting him in what he wants for his goal, for his future. It's all about him. Staff support him to do things like learn to eat healthier, to follow a menu, to read food labels, and follow a grocery list. Because Cody says he wants to become independent, staff support him to learn and prepare a balanced meal. Staff work with Cody to set a routine and schedule for what he needs to do, which helps him to focus. He knows to do homework and chores before leisure activities and things like playing video games. Sometimes he gets distracted, so staff do things like use first then statements to help him focus. They work with him on initiating and taking his own meds correctly. They call him to remind him to take his meds, and they are now teaching him to order his meds and pick up refills from the pharmacy. Staff remind him to pick out his clothes and complete household chores. Because he said he values his freedom, Cody is working on learning money management so that he doesn't have to ask for staff to help him all of the time. He now carries $20 with him and enters purchases onto a ledger to keep track of expenses. Because Cody said he loves gardens and likes to be outdoors, staff support him to volunteer at a local farmer's market, which gives him the opportunity to work with fresh foods from gardens. He attended a peers social skills class where he worked on how to engage his peers better, to make eye contact, to make phone calls, and make friends. At the graduation party for the peers class, he decided to bake cookies for everybody in the group, showed up with them in the morning, unexpected. He started at 7 o'clock in the morning, got there by 9, but the whole group of his peers were really excited and thought that was a very cool thing for him to do. He is someone that we have worked with for a while, and it's really interesting to see his growth over time. He had some struggles as a teenager, and we had a lot of trouble finding things that helped him to really be comfortable, to be happy, and not to kind of react to things from his past that really were troubling for him. Cody's a true success story, and the things that staff work with him on for his success, things like money management, being outdoors, having his freedom, learning how to talk to other kids, and how to truly develop friendships, it's been just wonderful to see. He has blossomed in front of our eyes, and he's a real success story. Courtney is another success story. Courtney's 24. She's quite social. She received an IEP and a GED and was able to graduate from a 2-year community college. She received staff support in attending classes and completing her homework. She works part-time as a teacher's aide now. While she has strong reading skills, she struggles with math, budgeting, and she wants to be healthier and less stressed. She tried a college experience program somewhere else, and she struggled with it due to her medical issues and some behavioral challenges. She moved back home and then moved into a supervised home and has a goal to live on her own in time. In her POM interview, what she said that matters most is independence and the ability to get transportation where she wants to go. She wants to learn how to drive and to buy an adaptive vehicle. Maybe not something we would have thought of her wanting. She wants community independence so she can go where she wants to. These are her words, again, her goals and her focus. In our program for young adults with ASD and other disabilities, staff work with that person on those skills in order to achieve the goals that they have identified. Again, establishing buy-in. Staff currently work with her on things like learning to self-administer medications, to call in refills to the pharmacy, to complete her own personal care. Because she said she wants to learn to drive and handle her own transportation, staff helped her take a driving course, which she passed. She is able to now drive a vehicle, and I'm not sure that that's something that we would have thought her capable of doing. She uses a wheelchair. Sometimes she would forget to charge the battery, and so she'd be out in the community and the battery would run down. So staff worked with her to make sure that she remembers to do such a very important thing so that she would be safe and comfortable. She wants to save money for that vehicle, and she is her own rep payee. So staff are working with her on budgeting and tracking her expenses so that she can save the money that she wants to save for that vehicle. She's working on things like feeling good about herself. Staff are supporting her to try to make healthy choices, things that she wants to work on, and to support her in things like exercise, using a DVD, swimming, and walking. They also support her when she's stressed. They take her to classes called I Am Woman, and they support her to do deep breathing and other stress management techniques. She said she likes to do things for others, and to support her as a volunteer, staff take her to read to children, to deliver Meals on Wheels in the community, to volunteer in a nursing home. She's working on community independence so that she can gradually increase her ability to be out on her own safely. Staff support her through gradually increased steps of independence, teaching safety skills, and practicing short periods of time in the community on her own to build her skills. This supports her to work on skills to achieve her ultimate goal of living on her own. Again, Courtney is another wonderful young lady, and we have so enjoyed working with her and seen that she, if given the tools and the supports that she needs and that she wants, she can achieve so much more simply by putting her in the driver's seat and having staff assist her in driving, even if it's an adaptive vehicle. So it's been wonderful to see her grow over the years, and we're continuing to see that growth. In conclusion, person-centered planning and the use of POM interviews helps us to learn what is most important to the young adult with ASD or other learning differences. Listening to their desires, their dreams, their goals, and what they want help in can foster their success and that very important buy-in. Support for college includes more than getting to classes and finding your way around campus and completing your homework. It includes things like organizational skills, social skills, money management, independent living skills, self-management, and learning advocacy and leadership. These can all help to bring success. Though Lexington is CQL accredited, and we have trained POM interviewers, this webinar was to discuss how essential person-centered planning is for everybody's success. There's many resources available to help families and professionals to learn some of the ways to incorporate person-centered planning, including things like the ARC self-determination scale found online, informal POM discussions, and the I Am Determined project here in Virginia. We've certainly covered a lot of ground today, but we want to continue to be a resource to you as parents, educators, clinicians, and so forth. We take what we do very seriously, and we enjoy it as well. We help students to be successful, and this is what we truly care about. If you have questions, you can reach out to us through our website, www.transitionsusa.org. Again, that is www.transitionsusa.org. Another resource we found that can help you too is the site www.goingtocollege.org. We look forward to having you join us for other webinars, and we wish you and your students all the success in the world. Thank you.